you're paying out dividends of $40,000 a year, the fair market value price probably was not $25,000. There's some kind of relationship. Okay, so again, what's a kickback? It's a bunch of stock certificates. Okay? The opportunity to invest can be a kickback. And for example, if you only let in doctors who refer, why is that a kickback? Anyone got an idea? Because we'll let you in because you're going to bring patients. Somebody else can't come in. The opportunity to invest because you're going to get money out of it is the kickback. If you only let in the big referrers and you don't, so you find out, okay, you do 25 however much time and somebody else only does 2, you only let in the big guys. That's it. If you kick out people who don't refer, or if you kick out people who don't refer enough. We settled a bunch of years ago with for a company that there was supposed to be a deal with some doctors in another community who were going to use the service. They didn't. So there were 3 doctors who didn't. So the first thing they did is they reduced the 3 shares to 1 share. So they split a share, third each, and then that didn't seem to wake them up. They threw them out. And they paid a bunch of bucks to the government on that one. Okay, so what happened? Here, now, when Tom and I and a couple other people went over to the OIG for their presentation to tell us what they had found and what they were going to do, they had a PowerPoint presentation. I am giving you excerpts from the PowerPoint presentation. So this is one of them. This was in the United emails among people in United. I've changed around the names. I'm only referring to people from United as individually United, not telling you who they are. And I've got the doctors as A to G or something like that. Okay, Dr. A has an interest in our PVP X partnership, is one of the partnerships. Dr. A is a very likable guy. However, he has not nudged hospital enough to work with us on a PVP contract. If Dr. A calls you, can you please push him back my way? I don't want to have yet another doc getting shares who haven't made the commitment to the company.
Oops.
That was the email of somebody sitting in this room. Okay? This is the response. If Dr. A did his second case, we really need to cash his check and assume he will be committed. But I agree with you, if he will not use us unless we get a contract at hospital, now is the time to solicit his support. Okay? So what they were doing is they were trying to get the doctor to do this. This was not some doc out on his own. Okay? And they weren't going to let him invest unless he had done something. Any questions about why this could be an issue? Did you have questions before we spoke for 3 hours? Have we liked to do a little bit? I need some more questions. We're not going to fill up for 2 hours. Okay. Just 3 days later comes the following. Dr. A sends an email to a salesperson. Summary of yesterday's dealings with Miss X at the hospital. Once I told her I was going to take cases elsewhere, she was very accommodating. And then the salesperson replied, thank you for taking the lead on this. Please let me know what we can do next. I don't want this to drop out of sight. As you know, Miss X is very busy and prone to not moving forward. We need to stay on top of this for it to succeed. Any thoughts? Anybody recognize their emails? You don't have to fess up. Anybody recognize their emails? Okay, so you watch the dates. They're on. That's the 6th of January. Okay, on January 30th, the hospital entered into an exclusive contract with United for the provision of PVP services and breached an existing contract with United's competitor. Not surprisingly, United's competitor, we are 99 and 44, 100% sure, are the ones who went to the OIG. Okay? So, any questions about this one and how we got where we were? So if you understand what the government says, I think you understand how we got there. Okay, so this is the recap the OIG gave us. So between April of 2005 and January of 2006, United was unsuccessful in getting a contract with normal marketing techniques. On January 3rd, Dr. A was not doing enough to help United get the contract. January 5th, Dr. A tells the hospital, we will take patients elsewhere unless hospitals use United. January 6th, Dr. A tells salesperson what he did. And January 30th, United signs an exclusive contract with the hospital. You can imagine how wonderful it was sitting through this presentation. So who has liability? Potentially. All three. Okay. Not a good position to be in. Okay, so let's look at, here's more. Here's another one. This is number 2. This is Dr. B. Email from Dr. B to someone at the hospital. PVP, subject, PVP with United Prostate Centers. Hospital 2 and I believe Hospital 3, which were competing hospitals, came to an agreement with these guys. I would really like to use them and would prefer not to move cases from your place to a place that will emphasize, that's their emphasis, use them. Okay? Oops. The email to Hospital 1 was sent at 12:24 p.m. 1 minute later, Dr. B forwards his email to Ms. D and Ms. E of the, oops, I shouldn't have done that, I didn't mean to do that. Oh no, that's right, I gave things, okay, of United says. Just trying to put a little pressure on hospital to come to the table. Every little bit helps. You know, the OIG must have looked and said, you know, they just handed it to us on a silver platter. Notice this is all emails. Okay. Another one. This is a new one, Dr. C. May 25th, 2005, from the salesperson to 3 United individuals. There's inter-office among the United people. As you can see from Dr. C's letter, he is a good listener. He spoke at length. That was the person's spell checker. On Tuesday, May 24th, about the competitors set up at hospital. Number 1. Attached, you will find the letter Dr. C crafted from our latest conversation. Please let me know if you see anything that needs to be changed or added. Dr. C will be happy to get involved on our behalf. This was interesting because this one, the letter that it talks about was a letter that spoke about Vortex jury-rigging the electricity at the hospital. And that didn't seem to impress the OIG very much. They weren't really concerned because what they saw was the pressure from the doctor to it. So because, and the reason I think it's that way was the way it's phrased, the way the whole thing was phrased was, we want you to use somebody else. If it was just the doctor going in and complaining, I don't think there would have been an issue. If he just went and said, look, you know, Fortec is playing around with this stuff and I don't want to use somebody who's playing around with the electrical connections, I don't think that would have been an issue. It was the tying of use these people instead that caused the problem. One might have thought that the OIG would have cared about this part, but I think it was a combination of things, not least which it really looked like there was a push to do somebody else, and they were happy to grab on it. Now, would they have done it if there weren't others? I don't know.
You know, what I was going to say, similar to that, we just recently had a situation, and Tom was involved, so where a doctor, one of the hospitals that we don't provide PVP at, our competitor showed up to work with the doctor. They showed up, I think, with the wrong fiber or something like that. The doctor was livid and thought, you know, he had to end up having to do a TURP, thought it really put the patient in severe, danger.
Right.
Sent a letter to the hospital, certainly uninitiated, basically complaining about this and saying that, you know, I will never use this company again. And the hospital actually just sent us a letter, or basically gave us really like an exclusive just with this one doctor at that hospital for that procedure.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you complain about something that is real, then you have a right to mind. No doctor has to use a bad service. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things about people that they don't show up, they won't, you know, they cancel last minute, they don't like the tech. I mean, you know, those are real reasons to complain about this. They weren't successful. I've heard of cases of excess bleeding. I mean, you know, there are all kinds of things that can happen, and doctors have a right to complain about the service. The problem here was it was a tie, and it really looked like it was all because of getting United.
But in this case, with the electricity issue, he can complain that he doesn't want that service anymore, but can he request?
Well, see, now it's not. Well, see, now it's a little different because it's not physician owned. But before, it would have presented a problem. We have to figure out what to do. You know, those are the kind of things we have to call. You know, I think that.
He can do that one way. It's nothing to do with investor ownership. I mean, he wanted good service.
Yeah, but was also this push from the company. It looked like it was a push from the company to get. And you know, if these happen, then we need to talk. And I know it sounds like I'm looking for business, but I'm really not. I will tell you that we made a lot more money in our firm on that investigation than we could ever make on the consulting. You know, consulting is a 5-minute call, a 10-minute call, a 15-minute call, and figure out what you should do. And it takes a lot of consulting before you get to the legal fees that were expended before. So it really is a case of it takes time to figure these things out. There are facts and circumstances. How do you respond to each one? Each one is very different. We have other clients who we talk with, and you know, something happens, and you've got to really figure it out based on what's going on. And so it's really just call when it happens. We'll figure it out. We'll fix it as best we can. Yeah.
You know, I just have a sort of almost a follow-up. So you have a situation like we just had, where a doctor basically puts a hospital on notice that, hey, you got a vendor that's coming in here and that's really creating, you know, significant patient risk, and you know, which obviously will flow through to the hospital. And yet the hospital just does one little carve out. What sort of live, you know?
You would think that the hospital would care.
Right.
They did.
You know?
Right.
Yeah,
You know, you would think they would care. You got to wonder about these hospitals. I mean, there are hospitals.
they said that they had never had any other issues with this vendor and that they were not going to breach their contract with this vendor for one isolated incident. Was their response.
Yeah.
The guy was versed. He'd been scripted
Yeah.
to deal with me.
And that may be, you know, and I don't know what, you know, I suppose if it weren't patient issues, I might say that. I don't know. You know, I just, you know, it's, but, you know, there's some hospitals that do continue with vendors. You got to wonder. But you got to wonder about the hospitals that continued with the cord going out the hallway.
Right.
I can't be a apologist for the hospital. Yeah.
We're gonna need a battery break in a little bit, so
Right,
I'll
tell me when. It's
I'll
okay.
signal.
Okay, so then, I will tell you, as I said, the OIG seemed unimpressed. Okay? Then there's a follow-up. So on May 24th, the OIG said, Dr. C sent this letter, the attachment I told you about, to two individuals at Hospital 1. And 2 minutes later, Dr. C forwarded the email to 2 people at United. And then the OIG notes, United gets a PVP lease agreement with the hospital, for Hospital 1 in May. So what they're saying is that's why it happened. Okay. Then Dr. C continued. Okay? Dr. C went to an individual at Hospital 4, so we got a new hospital. Again, he says, and he asks, are we getting close to being able to use this organization instead of the competitor for PVPs? Individual at Hospital 4 replies to Dr. C that United Shockwave's cost is much higher than the competitors. And the Hospital 4 individual declined United's proposal because the cost was too high. Oops. Then on May 24th, Dr. C sends another email to the individual at Hospital 4. Contains the identical language used in the letters to Hospital 1, and it was crafted as speaking with an individual at United. And says, I will be doing all of my PVPs at whichever hospital signs the contract with UPC, and will then gladly bring patients who want to go to Hospital 4 back once you guys are on the same system. So now you can see what's happening, because he says, I'm going to go to whichever hospital signs the contract. You see how it happens? So even though there's the problem, it's all woven together, and the OIG isn't willing to separate it out, because he's saying, look, I'm going, A will do it, B will do it, I'll go to whoever signs it. You can be the one. And it's approximately 1 month later, he sends a follow-up email to Hospital 4. Sorry they decided not to do United Prostate Center's PVP laser contract at your place or Hospital 2. Until this gets resolved, I will be doing the PVPs at Hospital 1. So he could have just gone to Hospital 1 and be done, but he was not. What he's saying is, you do them and I'll come back. Oops, what happened?
Battery.
No, it's him.
Is that it?
Yeah, let's go back one more. There we go. Okay, on August 1st, 2005, United signed a PVP lease agreement with Hospital 4 and its sister hospitals. There were 2 other hospitals in the system, so they got it. And so that's what the government looked at, this whole package of things that happened. And they felt that this was a problem, and they didn't like it.
I think one thing, Mary.
Yep.
Maybe you could also address the issue of the fair market value in this
Yes.
case. Is
Yes, so this case it was more. Remember, it was higher. So he was asking for a higher price, right?
Yeah, but remember too, though, that in all of these instances, if we got a contract with the hospital, it was for the same or less.
Right, and that was what happened in the end. The problem was he's asking for more, and I think that helped frame it. What happened was United in the end either paid the same amount or beat the price, and that is what happened. I think the problem is Dr. C's email that says he wants you to take it at that price. He wants the money. So it's again the problem of getting the doctors involved, because if the doctor were involved, it might have been easier to deal on the price.
But didn't you say that was the doctor sending it to the hospital? So how would we even know that? How would we
The
know?
problem was, it was a whole package of things, remember? There was, go back to the emails with the other hospital where someone at United is helping him craft the letter and saying we need him to go. We can go back. A bunch of them. See? He's a good listener. They're assuming that there was more coming out of United. And that was on the first, he's playing both hospitals. And so they're looking at the whole thing. That's why when people say things to me, sometimes people think they can isolate things. You can't. The government's going to look at the whole package. I was talking to somebody recently about overuse of services. Somebody said, somebody told them that they were ordering, say, 10 things or something. But we'll break it up into 5 and 5. And I think, you think the government's not going to figure it out and can't add 10? They look at the whole package. They're going to look at everything. They're not going to look at that isolated piece that you want to look at. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, so that's where we were. Oh, so, new case, new doctor. OIG interviewed this Dr. D, and he admitted to the following. Both Hospitals 5 and Hospital 6 approached him in 2005 about wanting to renegotiate lithotripsy rates with United. United's prices were too high and the hospitals were losing money. And he said, don't make me move my patients elsewhere. So we never saw we did not get to see the testimony. They were not willing to give it to us. We don't know how much out of context it came, but what it looks like from the presentation was they say, we got to renegotiate, the price is too high, we can get a better amount, and he says in response, don't make me move my patients. So what it looks like is he's saying, you better take this price and keep this company or I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the hospital is asking the doctor to get involved in the contracting, and that's not right.
Right.
It's not the doctor's business.
I agree. And so what is important for you guys to do is to tell the doctors that you do not want them involved in
That's what he
contracting.
did. He didn't say he was going to get involved.
He
said we're going to move somewhere else. What's wrong with that?
what he should say, I am not going to be involved in the contracting price. He did get involved. He says, I'm going to move my patients.
Yeah, but he didn't say I'm going to talk to United and see what I can do at the price. Did he say that?
Look,
Sorry.
it's worse. It's worse.
I don't care if it worked, but they're
No, I'm saying it's worse. It's worse. Personally, he shouldn't be involved at all. But if, in response to that, he had said, I'll talk to the people at United and see if they will renegotiate, that would have been one thing. Instead, what he's saying is, they're saying the price is too high, and he's saying, you better keep the price because otherwise I'm moving my patients.
I don't see you better keep the price. But wait a minute.
Wait.
Wait a minute. If he said, well, let me go back to United and see if we can go, like you just said, isn't it interference?
I don't
Who
think.
said that?
Let me explain to you. I don't think the proper response from the doctors, and what we need to tell the doctors is for them to say, I don't get involved in contract negotiations. That's the proper one. But, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
He's threatening them though.
Right, tell me. Yeah, you explain it. Okay.
It's just a threat, don't make me.
Right, it's a threat. He's saying, because in essence what's being said is, hospital says price is too high, and his response by saying don't make me move my patients is, you better keep that contract at that price. That's the implication.
Well, that's an assumption.
That's the implication.
That's an assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's also point out that when we looked at every case, in every single incident, we renegotiated.
I agree.
But I think everyone should know that.
Yeah, I said that, and I'll say it again. Bruce said it, and I said it. Yes. contracts were, they met the competitor or they beat it. The problem is that it's, when you look at this package of doctors being involved, he's saying he's threatening. Now this may not be your problem, this is his problem. After all, remember, he got a subpoena also, right?
Right.
So this is his problem.
But in fact, in the end, they ended up paying the same or less than the competitor.
Right, but remember back to the statute. Offer, payment, solicitation, or receipts. By his saying that, he's already doing a violation for him. Whether it's your problem too, if you tell him not to do it, he does it, it's not. But he is violating the law by what he's saying, irrespective of what happens in the end. And that's why you gotta keep these guys out of it. Because part of the problem is that when they get involved, there is an assumption that it's part of you, because if you look at all those other internal emails.
But here it said the hospital approached the doctor.
Right, right.
The doctor didn't approach the hospital.
It doesn't matter.
So what
His
should be done?
response when approached was, you better keep that contract. That's what it means.
His response could be taken as loyalty, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
it is
course.
loyalty.
You know,
The problem is, it's loyalty. It's loyalty with a threat, right?
It's a little heavy-handed.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
Mary,
Yeah.
I think it's important for everyone to understand what the key issue in all of this. You can always, a doctor can always say, I like this company, I like their service, I like the tech, I like everything about this company. I'd really like you to contract with this company. When you get into trouble is when he takes the next step and says, or else.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say, I'd like you to contract with them. What I would say is, I would like you to speak with them.
It's perfectly legal for him to go all the way, but he can't say or else.
All right. What I would do is to keep things, because I don't like being at the line. You know, I'm a kind of a chicken. So, what I would say is, the doctor can say, I like this company, I like their service, I like the quality, I would like you to speak with them. I wouldn't mention contract. I would say, I'd just like you to speak with them. Please speak to Jim Snelson at United about the service, and leave it at that. More questions? Okay.
How about this is the service I'd like to use?
How about I'd like you to talk about the service? I'm pretty adamant about this. How about this is, I would like you to speak with them about their service. Okay, another one. We're up to Hospital 6 and Dr. D. So email from individual at United to individual at Hospital 6. Dr. D indicated that if we are unable to work something out with you, Hospital 6, he wants us to add a day of service for him at Hospital 7, and he will treat all his cases there. Okay?
So? I don't get it.
You don't get it?
No. I assume both hospitals are the same organization.
No, 6 and 7 are different hospitals.
Pardon?
Hospital 6 and Hospital 7 are different hospitals, unrelated to each other.
So then how could who's he talking to about, say, adding an extra day?
He's talking to somebody at United. He tells somebody at United, the person from United is telling the hospital that if Dr. D, if the Hospital 6 does not work out a contract with United, that he has asked United, which has a contract at Hospital 7, to add a day there. So he is, what the person is saying in this email, it's a direct quote, it said I took out the names of the hospitals and the individuals. What they're saying is, if you don't sign the contract with us, Dr. D is going somewhere else. He's taking his patients. It's a threat. What?
he's already at Hospital 7, so.
No. United has one. No, D goes to 6. Dr. D treats at 6. United has multiple contracts. So it's got a contract at 7, and it wants one at, I don't remember if it wanted 6 or it had 6 and was going to lose 6. I forget which one it was.
Hospital 6 contracted with one of our competitors?
No. They were both contracted with us. Hospital 6 wanted a decrease in rate and wanted to renegotiate that contract. And we didn't know if we were going to reach terms with them. And Dr. D indicated that if the contract is terminated or we can't reach agreement and we can add an additional day of service at Hospital 7, Dr. D would take the cases there.
So it's a threat. I will leave. It's somebody United calling the hospital and saying that the doctor is going to move his patients to another hospital if you don't sign the contract.
Mary Ann?
Yep.
Let's say that you get a situation like this, and salesman talks to the doctor and says, well, we can't get a contract there, we have a contract here, you wanna go there, you can. The doctor says, okay, he doesn't even talk to the hospital, he just moves them,
Right.
that's perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. I told you, I'll repeat it again. We asked the question of the OIG, what would have happened if instead of threatening the hospitals, the doctors just moved their patients? And the response was, we would not be sitting here.
So I want,
But then they'd say, doctor, why didn't you tell us that? If we would've known you were gonna move, we would have done something.
Well, because the problem is that that would be a violation of law, and we can't do that.
so the point that I'm making is, any of you, you know, the techs or the salesman, you can certainly say, it doesn't look good, I'm getting a contract here, but your other hospital, we're still going there, we love you, do your.
We had limits as to what we could ask for, and you're the lucky guys who get to stay and hear the whole thing.
You're on again.
What could be better? Okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. All right, so this was Dr. D and his cases. And then, lo and behold, the hospital says 5 and 6 decided to use United. Okay, next one. December 1st, 2006. United Hospital 8 into a short-term letter agreement for literacy service. See, sometimes you did do short-term agreements. January 5th, 2007, email from individual at United to 3 other individuals at United. And the first individual says, we also need to talk about Hospital 8 and getting as many of the city's doctors to move their cases there. This is one you're talking about. The company does much better financially. It's how we sold it to Hospital 8. And if they don't see an increase in volume, I'm afraid they will decide not to move forward with us. Okay? So it says, this is how we sold it to Hospital 8, that they were going to get these patients. Okay? So we got to get them there, or they won't sign a long-term contract. All right, this is an excerpt of a letter sent to a physician from people at United. This is the lead doc at this one city. We're pleased to advise you that we have negotiated a very favorable agreement at Hospital 8 that provides a very favorable rate for Medicare patients and also a significantly higher rate than the current ASC agreement for most patients. Please communicate to the urologists in your city that they should use their best efforts to treat patients, especially Medicare and Medicaid patients, at Hospital 8 if feasible. One of the reasons we were able to get this favorable agreement was on the representation that most of the cases would be moved to this facility. Please encourage the city urologist to establish admitting privileges at Hospital 8 and advise them that we are willing to assist them in any way possible with their credentialing requirements.
Okay, Pat.
Yes. Okay?
Show you how arcane this gets. This hospital, docs in this city, hated this one hospital that they were doing their cases at. They despised it. It was an anti-doctor hospital. They wanted, in the worst way, to get out of doing cases there for a number of reasons. The second hospital had no urology in the hospital at all. We went to them and said, look, the reason you get no urology is because you offer no services. If you build it, they will come. It was a competitive thing. We promised no cases. What we said to them was, they are never going to come if you don't offer the service. Offer the service. They hate the other hospitals. If you offer it, they will come. And then we told the urologist after we got the contract that they now had service. You could get away from them. They didn't. If we hadn't told them, they would never know that there was another hospital offering service. So instead of saying we promised them cases, we were encouraging now the other hospital to market themselves in that way. And in fact, they did. But we never promised, for example, you'll get 47 cases. We just said, if you build it,